Aloha everyone. So it's been about 2.5 months since I released my last full drone tour of Lahaina town. And at that point, almost all of the residential lots had had their ash and debris completely removed. Now that we've given it some time after the cleanup phase, I'm really curious to see how much construction activity is happening in town at this point. Let's go take a look.
Just like I've done on all of my previous drone tours of Lahaina, I'm going to start on the far south end of Lahaina town in an area called Puamana. We're going to follow Front Street and the coastline all the way to the north end of town and then circle back a little bit further up the hillside to cover as much area as possible. We will also take a separate flight following Lahainaluna Rd into the Lahainaluna Neighborhood and back down the hill. As always, I'll provide timestamps to the different neighborhoods and landmarks in the description so you can jump to any of the areas that are most important to you if you don't have time to watch the full tour. It's worth noting that this video was recorded in the middle of October, and it was on a day that Maui residents received notifications of a red flag warning, which means that critical fire weather conditions were likely to occur. A combination of strong winds, low relative humidity, and warm temperatures can contribute to extreme fire behavior. Maui Electric actually issued its first ever PSPS, or Public Safety Power Shutoff, which is designed to prevent incidents similar to the Lahaina wildfires from last year, which was likely caused by down power lines that were still energized. By the way, we're now coming up on the far south end of Front Street. Regarding the red flag warning that we received on this day, notifications were sent to residents that power could be shut off at any time, which of course did cause some anxiety. However, as you can see from this video, the winds remained relatively calm and power remained on throughout the day for all customers. I personally hope that we can have more conversations about what it would take to bury as many of the power lines in Lahaina town as we rebuild, so there's less concerns about this particular fire hazard. Now, as we fly over the Shark Pit residential neighborhood, you can see that 100% of the cleanup of debris has been completed, as I mentioned in the intro. However, from what I can see, there isn't a lot of signs of rebuild happening in this area yet. We will see more signs of progress in the residential rebuild later in the video as we fly over the Wahikuli and Lahainaluna neighborhoods. We're now approaching the Lahaina Shores condominium complex located right on the ocean front. I recently spoke with one of the members of the HOA at Lahaina Shores, and it sounds like they anticipate people moving back into their condos by the middle of 2025. Below us right now is the shops at 505 Front Street. We're coming up on the area where King Kamehameha III Elementary School was located prior to the fire. It has been announced that the school will be rebuilt in a different location. The proposed new location is about 2 miles from the school's original site, outside the area impacted by the fire. Next, we're approaching the Lahaina Harbor, which has already been cleaned up for several months now. We'll start a new flight here to continue the tour. We're going to fly right over the top of the world-famous Banyan Tree, which you'll see looks mostly green, and it's clear that the portion of the tree that survived the fire is recovering nicely. We're now approaching the commercial area of Front Street that held a lot of the shops, restaurants, and art galleries that most people who just visited Lahaina are familiar with. The last time I flew over this particular location, there was a sailboat that had run aground here. I'm happy to see that it's finally been removed. Now, I had mentioned that 100% of the residential lots in Lahaina have been cleared, but work is still ongoing to clear all of the commercial and public properties. According to the Army Corps of Engineers, as of October 15th, roughly 77% of the commercial and public properties have been cleared of their ash and debris. The building on the right-hand side of the screen with the blue roof is the building that held Foodland Grocery Store prior to the fire, and we're now approaching the intersection of Front Street and Papala'ua Street and about to fly over the location of the Outlets of Maui. The next intersection that we'll pass is the intersection at Front Street and Baker Street. Just beyond that intersection is where Channel House and Lahaina Residential stood before the fire. And just past that is where Front Street Apartments stood before the fire. It was recently announced that the state of Hawaii purchased the land under Front Street Apartments with the intention of keeping the rental rates affordable and below market rate after they're rebuilt. We're now coming into the Baby Beach neighborhood, and for this flight, we're going to continue to follow the coastline instead of Front Street, flying right over the top of Baby Beach itself. If you look close, you can see that there are a few people in the ocean enjoying the beach on another perfect day on Maui. It's good to see some signs of life in the area. We're now about to fly right over the top of the Lahaina Jodo Mission and the giant Buddha statue which survived the fire. On the left-hand side of the screen is the Mala boat ramp, and off in the distance, you can see the Kaanapali coastline. We're now approaching the bridge over the Kahoma Stream, and we'll fly right over the top of Old Lahaina Luau. On the mountain side of Front Street is the Cannery Mall, and on the ocean side of Front Street, there are several restaurants that are open to the public and have been for several months. Okay, we're now entering back into more residential neighborhoods. Now, I didn't see any homes under construction in this last stretch of Front Street, but we will see some buildings going up when we cross the highway into Wahikuli. So, as we approach Lahaina Road's condominium complex and start a new flight, let's talk a little bit about how many building permits have been issued so far. There have been a total of 1,355 properties cleared of their ash and debris. So that is how many properties we hope to see submit building permits eventually. So far, 201 properties have submitted their application for building permits, and out of those 201 submitted, 92 properties have actually had their building permits issued, which is more than I expected, given how long it usually takes to get building permits approved. However, we have only had one property in town that has officially completed construction, which is far fewer than I had hoped for at this point. On the left-hand side of the screen, I see one of the lots closest to the highway looks to have a freshly poured slab with building materials being staged. We're also going to notice a number of tiny homes and RV campers in this area as people start to return to their properties. In the center of the screen now, you'll see a couple of homes well under construction with walls up and roofs on. Now, as we start to turn around and look up the hillside, you'll see the progress being made on the temporary housing sites being built above the old neighborhood. The first one is a state-funded project with 450 planned units that will house up to 1,500 wildfire survivors for up to 5 years. The first families actually started moving in a couple months ago in August. There's also a second temporary housing site that's located just to the south that's being funded by FEMA with 169 units. So one of the questions I get asked a lot is whether or not people are being forced off their land in some sort of land grab by outside investors. And I personally am not seeing that happen. There have only been a handful of properties sold inside the burn zone since the fire that have been entered into the MLS. I'm sure there are some additional off-market sales that have happened, but I'm not seeing a lot of properties being transferred at this point. Towards the middle of the screen, you can see another house under construction with the walls up, but no roof on top yet. And a little further ahead, we'll see another property that looks like it's ready to pour footings. Finishing my thought on the potential land grab scenario in Lahaina, even though I'm not seeing a ton of properties being sold at this point, doesn't mean it won't happen in the future. As research economists at the University of Hawaii recently conducted a survey of fire survivors and found that the unemployment rate of those that responded jumped from 2.3% before the fire to 14.2% now. This is largely due to the slowdown in tourism that we're experiencing. Long-standing businesses are closing and more people are struggling. Eventually, the government assistance will run out and we do need to get people back on their feet and self-sufficient. As we come to the end of the Wahikuli neighborhood here, I'll spin to look up the hillside so you can see the progress that's being made on the affordable rental project that started construction before the fire and is nearing completion. This project will provide another 200 units of affordable rentals for Lahaina residents. Okay, now we're going to jump back across to the ocean side of the highway and continue our path heading south. Directly below us right now is the parking lot to the Cannery Mall, which as you can see is 100% open and very busy right in the center of Lahaina town. The active construction site that we're about to fly over is actually a commercial project that was planned before the fire. Just beyond that is the Kahoma stream once again, and past the stream is the Kahoma Village neighborhood. Now, most of this neighborhood survived the fire, but we recently got some great news that the 4 townhome buildings that were lost to the fire have received conditional approval on building permits, and they hope to start construction soon. Okay, from here, we're going to jump ahead a little bit and take a new flight up into the Lahainaluna neighborhood, starting from the ocean. We're flying right over the top of where Lahaina Yacht Club, Lahaina Fish Company, and Cheesburger in Paradise were located prior to the fire. From here, we're going to follow Lahainaluna Rd up the mountainside. In the middle of the screen is where the Plantation Inn was located prior to the fire. This is the intersection of Waine'e Street and Lahainaluna Road. And of course, straight ahead, you can't miss the prominent Lahaina landmark, the old Pioneer Mill smokestack. This location was previously being used as a staging and breakdown area for large steel, concrete, and burnt vehicles during the cleanup phase. But as you can see, it's all cleaned up now. Now, another question that I get asked a ton is whether or not it's okay to come vacation on Maui. And I want to make it clear that yes, not only is it okay to come visit Maui right now, the island needs your support. And I know you're going to enjoy your time here. There seems to be a popular misconception that all of Maui burned, but Lahaina is only a small part of the island. Places like Kaanapali and Kapalua are still absolutely gorgeous. And if you want to completely avoid the Lahaina area, you can enjoy a full vacation on the south side of Maui in places like Kihei, Wailea, and Makena. As I had mentioned earlier in the video, the number of travelers to Maui continues to be very much below pre-fire levels. Our economy does rely mostly on tourism. If we want to avoid the land grab that so many people fear, we need that industry to flourish until we have a sustainable alternative. Okay, so we just flew over a couple large homes under construction, and we're coming into an area where I noticed the highest concentration of construction activities. Straight ahead on the other side of the Kahoma stream, you see a mid-rise apartment building that's another affordable rental project that's being rebuilt after the fire. Directly below us right now are 3 more homes right in a row that are making good progress. Looks like several properties here are framing and preparing to pour footings. Now we're approaching an area with a few homes either completed or nearing completion. Straight ahead on the left side of the Kahoma stream is the Opukea condominium complex, and on the right side of the Kahoma stream is Hoonanea townhomes. In the center of the screen is where the Mind's Eye interior building was, and the intersection where Taco Bell and Pizza Hut was prior to the fire. We're now following Limahana Place, where the old pawn shop was, and at the end of the cul-de-sac is where the Sugarcane Train food truck park was prior to the fire. Okay, now we're going to jump back across the highway in roughly the same location and continue our path flying south. The 2-story building below us right now is the parking garage for the Outlets of Maui. We're following Wainae Street, and on the left side of the street is where the Kaiser Lahaina Clinic was. Just past that is where the First Hawaiian Bank building was, and we're coming up on the intersection at Papala'ua Street. One more thing that I think is important to mention is that we have a very important election coming up for local Maui politics. Now, I purposely avoid political discussions in these Lahaina update videos because it's such a divisive conversation. And I think what the community needs now, more than ever, is to come together, not to fight amongst ourselves. But that being said, on this year's ballot, the community will have the opportunity to elect the county council that will be instrumental in shaping not only Lahaina's rebuild, but also some very important policies that will impact all of Maui's ability to recover. Ballots are already being delivered to people's mailboxes, so make sure you do your research on the different candidates' policies before you vote. By the way, we're flying right over the location of the Aina Nalu condominiums right now. In the middle of the screen, the large square rock wall is where the old Prison Street Museum was, and of course just past that is the intersection at Prison Street and Wainae Street. In this area, we are seeing some more positive signs of progress, with a few lots getting ready for footings. And at the top left side of the screen, on the mountain side of the highway, you'll see the Lahaina Aquatic Center, which actually just reopened a few days ago. As we approach the south end of Lahaina again, where we started the tour, don't forget to like the video if you appreciate the time and effort it takes to put these updates together. Share it with anyone you know that wants to stay up to date on what's happening in Lahaina Town, and subscribe for more updates. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I hope to see you on the next one. Aloha.